fuck?" John whispered under his breath, realizing that he would have to go inside. Slowly, 1 foot at a time, he stepped in. Something seemed strange inside. It was too quiet for all that screaming he heard. Looking down, he saw Mark's shoes just inside the doorway. Why would he take off his shoes? John found the answer to the question after only 1 step. His wet shoes on the tile floor let out a squeal, piercing the silence like a knife. Apparently, Mark didn't want anyone to hear him. But what did he need to get? Was he getting anything? Did he plan this? What the hell was going on? Thoughts spun around John's head, making him feel slightly nauseous. He took another step in, and again his shoes let out a piercing screech. His eyes listlessly adjusted to the light and objects became clearer. The hallway led into a living room littered with high-priced furniture. Slowly John walked into the room. Halfway through, his heart almost shot through his skull when a cold voice came from directly behind him. "I told you to wait." The voice was shaky, uncontrolled and tense, but unmistakably Mark's. "What the hell is going on, Mark?" John's response was cold and distant, as if someone was speaking for him. Mark replied with the same 5 words. "I told you to wait." The voice seemed as if it was holding back an unmeasurable amount of anger. John whipped around abruptly to face Mark, but only emptiness greeted him. The front door at the end of the hallway was still ajar and let in a little light from the street. "I did wait. Now tell me what the fuck happened here?" John shouted into the darkness. Mark's response this time came from John's right, a bit further away. The voice was cold and steady, as the anger had evaporated from his tone. "You're early, John. You shouldn't have come in." John turned to his right. Still nothing but a doorframe leading into another room faced him. John followed the sound of Mark's voice, walking slowly. Every step of his shoe rang out like a cannon blast in the inescapable silence. "I fucking waited the 15 goddamn minutes. Now stop playing games and tell me what happened." "I can't help if you don't tell me." John had wanted to sound tough, but the shake in his throat gave him away. "You're 7 minutes early, John." This time the voice came from up a flight of stairs lit by a faint warm glow, probably coming from the bedroom. John gradually climbed the stairs. Lifting each leg took an enormous amount of effort. "No, I looked at the clock in my car and it said." John trailed off and his whole body shuddered. The clock in his car was 7 minutes fast. How could I have forgotten? How could I have been so stupid? Why didn't I remember? It doesn't matter now, though. I'm here and I have to move forward. At the top of the stairs, John stood in a dark hallway dimly lit by a cracked door at the end of the hallway. John was drawn to the light almost instinctually. The warmth of it seemed so kind. His whole body relaxed, goosebumps lowered and his brain calmed. That one beam of light turned into John's whole world, as if his future lay behind it. Before he knew, he was at the door pushing it open and it swung in soundlessly. It took John's eyes a couple of seconds to adjust to the blinding light that filled the room. And what greeted him was far from comforting. It was hell. Blood stained every wall of the white room, even the ceiling. Chunks of what looked like flesh clung to the bed, lamp, and the floor. In the center of the room stood Mark. He was covered in blood from head to toe, as if he had bathed in it. The only things that peered through the red were his eyes and mouth, piercing white, bright as the sun against a red sky. Mark stood in between 2 naked bodies, one man, and one woman, both covered in blood. The woman's chest had been ripped open, snapped tubes stuck out at odd angles, and blood poured out like colate draining into rivers. The man looked like he had been sawed in half, starting from between his legs, which were torn apart from one another. The splayed flesh went up to the man's sternum, and intestines and other organs spilled out. The only thing in common with the 2 bodies was that they were headless. Both looked to be decapitated crudely. The state of the flesh remaining around the necks was loose and jagged. It was not until Mark moved closer to him that he could see the two missing heads. They were simply chunks of flesh covered in blood-clotted hair in the middle of the bed. One face was instantly recognizable. It was Monica. Her face was twisted in a lasting image of the terror, and in her mouth, a human heart. The other skull appeared to be that of an older man, at least 50, based on gray hair circling a bald head like a halo decorated with splattered blood. In his mouth looked to be the man's genitals. The scene was so graphic John's mind couldn't comprehend it. His eyes darted from one thing to the next in fascination and disgust. Mark spoke up and broke the silence. "You should have waited for John. You would have lived longer. You could have taken credit for this beautiful crime, as the police wouldn't have any other suspect. Your fingerprints and DNA are everywhere." Mark spoke deliberately and with great control, walking slowly towards John, who was still transfixed by his surroundings. Mark spoke his last words directly into John's ear as he plunged his knife deep into John's stomach. "I will make you beautiful too."